On July 31st, 1999, Squidward Testicles would set out on a bike ride that would later prove to be the final ride of his life. At 8:30 a.m., Squidward stepped out of the front door of his house, ready to go out for his daily bike ride before being stopped by both SpongeBob SquarePants and Patrick Star. The two proceeded to try and get Squidward to go jellyfishing with them, but Squidward declined their offer, insisting that he go for his bike ride instead before he began to ride away. Squidward would later find out that this decision here would be the beginning of the end for him. Immediately after Squidward left, both SpongeBob and Patrick knew that Squidward would have to pay for his actions, and they would quickly come up with a plan. The two then immediately found a spot on Squidward's path and proceeded to wait until Squidward arrived. Several minutes later, Squidward began to approach the position and they began to execute their plan. When Squidward got to within 150 feet of their location, SpongeBob released a jellyfish that was to attack Squidward. The jellyfish managed to land inside of Squidward's mouth, but thanks to his quick reaction, Squidward managed to spit the jellyfish out before he began to speed away. Sadly though, Squidward wasn't fast enough and the jellyfish got inside of Squidward's shirt and began to electrocute Squidward's whole body, causing him to lose control of his bike, sending him off a 250-foot cliff, to where he would painfully have every bone in his body shatter and would be impaled by razor-sharp rocks before falling onto a landmine which blew off both of his legs. Immediately after this, both SpongeBob and Patrick ran down to bandage up Squidward so that he wouldn't die from blood loss. The two then proceeded to wheel Squidward back to his own home, to where they would celebrate this gruesome event with him. During the celebration, Squidward quickly noticed that the front door flew open and attempted to escape so that he could call for help, but sadly SpongeBob quickly noticed this and dragged Squidward back into his hell. After this, Patrick decided to punish Squidward for his actions by blowing steaming hot water all over Squidward's face, which melted the skin right off of it and left Squidward blind in one of his eyes. After this, SpongeBob decided that that wasn't enough punishment and he brought out a sonic blaster to use on Squidward. When SpongeBob used this weapon, it caused bleeding in both of Squidward's ears and ended up disintegrating one of his right eardrums. After these events, SpongeBob and Patrick decided to force Squidward to go jellyfishing with them, and they went out to jellyfish fields. When they arrived there, Patrick attempted to get Squidward to grab onto a jellyfishing net, but due to Squidward having both of his hands completely shattered, he was unable to do so. Patrick was not so happy about this and forcefully slammed the net through Squidward's hand. This caused Squidward to have a 2.5-inch hole in his hand and left him in extreme pain. After this, both SpongeBob and Patrick would put on a sad display of jellyfishing in front of Squidward before they pissed off a jellyfish and led it towards Squidward. This jellyfish would sting Squidward on the nose, which set off something in Squidward as he began to try and catch it. While this happened, both SpongeBob and Patrick cheered as they knew what was going to happen next. Squidward would eventually catch the jellyfish, but not before it led him to a king jellyfish. The king jellyfish was pissed at Squidward for this and began chasing down Squidward. Squidward attempted to run away from the king jellyfish before it finally caught up with Squidward and electrocuted him with over 500 million volts of electricity. Squidward did not die, however, and SpongeBob and Patrick brought him back to his house. When they arrived, SpongeBob and Patrick gave Squidward the jellyfish that he caught earlier inside of a jar so that he could constantly be reminded of this day. But at this moment, Squidward is already at death's door, and in his final moments, Squidward opened the jar and the jellyfish began to attack SpongeBob and Patrick. Squidward laughed at this before SpongeBob ordered the king jellyfish to end it, and in a matter of seconds, the king jellyfish swam over to Squidward and gave out one final sting that put Squidward out of his misery. Immediately after this, SpongeBob and Patrick went on a run, and after only 2 hours, someone found Squidward's body and the hunt was on. After a grand total of 3 days, SpongeBob and Patrick were caught by local authorities and were put on trial. The two confessed guilty and were sentenced to 50 years in the Bikini Bottom jail with no chance of parole, and Squidward's body would be laid to rest at the Floaters Cemetery.